السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the book of Fadl al-Islam, the virtue of the deen of al-Islam, and we reached the chapter titled ما جاء في الخروج عن دعوى الإسلام. What came, meaning in text and evidences in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, in the subject of Al-Khuruj and Da'wah al-Islam, to go outside of the fold of al-Islam, or to go against the deen of al-Islam, or to be called a Muslim. What had been mentioned in this, or what would make a person, for example, renegade away from the deen of Allah, or change from being upon the truth to turn to falsehood and to adopt falsehood. And he mentioned a verse in the Quran, هو سماكم المسلمين من قبل وفي هذا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called you the Muslimin from before. And from before meaning from the messengers before. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that called you Muslimin. Before we get into the evidences that are mentioned, this chapter is basically looking into the reasons behind causing split among the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. The reasons behind having sects and people are not united upon one thing, and every group is rejoicing over what they have and their way, and they're against one another. And the means or the reasons for people to be united, to be together, and to go back to the characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about the believers. هو سماكم المسلمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called you the Muslimin. He did not call you all of these different names, right? And there's no harm if people call a certain situation a certain name and so on, but this ummah is spacious enough for people to be upon it. And it's a matter of the qadar of Allah, the decree of Allah, that the split will happen. So this is not something to be ignored, but it shows, we need to know what are the reasons behind it. And for people need to be united upon the deen of al-Islam. But what is the deen of al-Islam that they need to be united upon? The deen of al-Islam that was present at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, the way that the Prophet ﷺ applied it in his life, and the generations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised in the Quran. And if they differed among themselves in a matter, then it's okay to have these types of differences. What is called here is not for people to be united upon every single matter to have the same opinion. Of course not. But the split, the disunity among the ummah based on matters of belief, understanding the deen, they become enemies to each other. They become prejudiced against one another. All of this, the reasons for it are many, but one of which is differing among themselves because of matters of the deen. So this is such an important subject. And the goal of a Muslim is not to unite people just for the sake of unity, but the goal of the Muslim is to be upon the truth and to call people to be upon the truth and to be united upon the truth. And there are many reasons for that, and one of which is the ignorance about matters of the deen. Therefore, you would find people maybe prejudiced for their tribe, for their race, for their people, for their even sheikh or whatever there is that causes all kinds of disunity among a community, among the entire ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. So mentioning that as a title, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called you, the name that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you as Muslims is Muslims. So when Muslims introduced their own names for themselves, this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not call you different names. He called you Muslims. And they made the loyalty and disloyalty based on the names that they made. This is something that a person should be warned against. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that called you Muslims, and He called the believers from the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam before that. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, when there are certain names or certain things that have been given to people, like there's al-Muhajirin and the Ansar. This is not a group of people to cause them to disunite or to differ against one another. Or as-Sabiqun al-Awwalun min al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar. But when these types of things caused or showed some disunity at certain situations, the Prophet ﷺ warned them against this. And these are virtuous groups or virtuous words, to be from the Muhajirin or to be from the Ansar. And when two people, one from the Muhajirin, one from the Ansar, they had a fight or a dispute, which is a normal thing in any community. The one from the Muhajirin, he said, Ya al-Muhajirin, he called the Muhajirin. And the one from the Ansar, he called Al-Ansar. And the Prophet ﷺ, he heard this. So he said clearly, أَبِدَعْوَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ وَأَنَّ بَيْنَ أَظْهُرِكُمْ. The call of Jahiliyyah, the call of ignorance, while I'm among you, living among you, you would call the Jahiliyyah call. Everyone is calling their own people to fight against the others when they're all Muslims. So the Prophet ﷺ, eliminated that immediately. And he called it Da'wah al-Jahiliyyah. Why? Because the people of Jahiliyyah, they used to fight and loyal themselves based on, many different things, but not the deen of Islam. Once people are Muslims, then what brings them together is the deen of Allah. And that's why they should be united upon al-Islam, the pure understanding of al-Islam, and not to loyal themselves to anything else. So, and this is how the verse in Surah Al-Hajj, وَسَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. وفي هذا meaning, and in this Quran, ليكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا, till the end of the verse. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be a witness for you or against you.